Yes, that's right. We are very excited to announce the launch of Headstamp Publishing's most recent book on Kickstarter, live as of right now today. The book is Licensed Troubleshooter, The Guns of James Bond, and it is, of course, a book about the firearms of James Bond, written by Caleb Daniels, and we had a whole lot of fun working on the book with him as well as filming that little intro video. So, who is Caleb Daniels anyway? Caleb Daniels is exactly the sort of person you would want writing a book on the guns of James Bond. First and foremost, he is a lifelong James Bond fanatic. I'm not going to mince words about it. If you see Caleb walking around, the chances are about 100% that whatever he's wearing and carrying can be traced directly back to some point in the James Bond literary or cinematic universe. And it's that depth of knowledge and that passion for the subject that makes him such a great author for Licensed Troubleshooter. Now, he is also a photographer himself. We've used a bunch of his own photography in this book alongside that of Headstamp's James Rupley. And he's worked in the firearms industry for something like the last 8 years. He's worked with a variety of different firearms companies, most notably including, predictably, Walther. And while this is his first print book, it's not his first foray into writing. He, in 2020, started the website and also Instagram feed commandobond.com, exploring the whole world of James Bond style. The guns, of course, but also the suits, the tailoring, the clothing, the accessories, the timepieces, basically everything that encompasses James Bond style. Licensed Troubleshooter is a book that's intended to appeal equally to James Bond enthusiasts who are curious to know more about guns, and firearms enthusiasts who like James Bond and want to know more about James Bond's connection to different firearms. So what we've done is take the most important, the most distinctive, and the most iconic firearms associated with James Bond and compiled them into the book in 2 separate sections. There is first a section on the literary Bond. Of course, James Bond begins as a character in Ian Fleming's first Bond novel, Casino Royale, in 1953. Fleming would write a whole series of Bond novels, of course, but even after Fleming's death in the 1960s, a sequence of further authors have been commissioned and licensed to continue writing books about James Bond. These are, as we refer to them, the continuation authors. And there's a whole interesting evolution of Bond in those novels and different authors' takes on the James Bond character, just as in the cinematic history, we have 6 different actors who have each given a unique twist to James Bond's character. So the first section of the book is the literary side, the second section is the cinematic side, and between them we cover the whole breadth of James Bond's firearms from the very beginning up to the present day. Now, with each gun, we're going to show an array of gorgeous photography of the real-world examples of these firearms. This, by the way, is not a book that covers the physical movie prop guns that were used in films. Those are usually non-functional or just solid rubber dummies or blank adapted guns, and to us they're less interesting than the real-world guns that are being portrayed in the movies or written about in the book. So we present the guns in this beautiful photography, a combination of some still life, lifestyle photography that's really cool. It's sort of a new thing for Headstamp, as well as our traditional, just beautiful James Rupley presentations of firearms on the page. And then we talk about their history, their development, how they came to be associated with James Bond, like what is the Bond connection to each of these guns, and how do these guns actually correspond to real-world covert operations or intelligence service use. I should add that, yes, we do cover a couple of the guns, the particularly iconic guns in the Bond films that are not actually real guns. Things like Scaramanga's Golden Gun and the laser pistols from Moonraker, using a combination of commissioned artists' renderings and also prop models. We cover both of those guns in the same depth that we cover everything else in the book. It's also worth pointing out that there are some similar conundrums on the literary side. Ian Fleming was not a firearms expert by any means, and some of the details that he described in Bond's armaments don't make a lot of sense sometimes and are occasionally directly contradictory. And so there's a nice chunk of the book that is dedicated to fleshing out what did Fleming actually mean when he's writing these specific guns in? This can apply to, for example, Bond's long-barreled Colt 45, as well as the modifications that he makes to his Beretta 418. So those are all covered in the book. To me, some of the most interesting elements in Licensed Troubleshooter are some of the highlight sections where we're able to go into detail on the impact that James Bond, the fictional character, had on the real world. Whether that's US MACV-SOG commandos carrying Walther PPKs, or some of Ian Fleming's direct experience all the way back to World War II when he worked for British naval intelligence. Fleming was in direct communication with William Donovan, and some of Fleming's advice was solicited in the creation of the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which was the precursor to the American CIA. There are elements here where you would never expect a fictional character to have such a significant and interesting impact on real-world choices and decisions, and yet he does. So we have a number of sections like that in the book. We also have a bunch of stretch goals lined up for the book that include more of this sort of content. So if people are interested in it, this is something that we can expand on a bit in the book, and I hope that we do. And speaking of that, of course, like all Headstamp Kickstarter projects, we have an array of stretch goals that will be unlocked over the course of the Kickstarter. So this is a 30-day Kickstarter. It starts today and it ends on October 11th. And you can see our stretch goals over on the Kickstarter page. There's a link to that, of course, in the description text below. The next couple are visible now, and as we meet those, we will unlock more. Some of them impact the physical characteristics of the book, and some of them involve additional cool content. So definitely check those out. In Headstamp Kickstarter campaigns, we always have our standard retail version of the book, and we have a special Kickstarter exclusive version. We've doubled down on that for Licensed Troubleshooter, and this time we have our standard retail edition, which is what we will be stocking on headstamppublishing.com after the Kickstarter ends. That's designed to have the same aesthetic as all of our previous Headstamp books. It will fit beautifully on the shelf with our previous editions. But we've decided to go with two Kickstarter exclusive versions of the book cover, and this time they're substantially different from the regular retail edition. So what we've done is designed one that is a tribute to the literary James Bond, and one that's a tribute to the cinematic James Bond. Now, all three of these are identical inside. The actual content of the book is the same. They all cover both the literary and the cinematic side of James Bond. They will all include any and all extra content that are unlocked through our stretch goals. But the covers are different, giving you guys the chance to pick your favorite or multiple of the covers, whichever you think is the most interesting. Our literary cover is a piece of artwork that we commissioned that's inspired by the work of Richard Chopping. He was a watercolor artist who illustrated the covers of the first edition of Ian Fleming's James Bond novels. They're really cool, they're pretty iconic, and we wanted to do something in that spirit. So the illustration here is a seaside small villa reminiscent of Ian Fleming's own GoldenEye residence on the island of Jamaica. That's where he wrote virtually all of James Bond, was on a golden typewriter looking out over the ocean in Jamaica. And of course on the cover we have Bond's PPK and his Burns Martin triple draw holster, a combination that is like technically impossible, but we cover that in the book. Anyway, our cinematic tribute cover is inspired by the aesthetic of the Daniel Craig film Skyfall, where we find Bond at his ancestral home up in Scotland, a very foreboding, dark, somber environment. And we wanted to try and capture that aesthetic as well as the artistic style of Skyfall. I think that one turned out really cool as well. Frankly, I think all three of these are really awesome looking covers, and I don't envy you having to pick which one you think is the coolest to pick up. Now, all three covers are available as either standard books or signed by Caleb Daniels, the author, or as collector editions. And the collector editions come in these really cool matching clamshell cases, along with copies of the two companion books that we are publishing as part of this campaign. So those companion books are catalogs of OSS weapons from World War II and CIA weapons from early in the Cold War. Not just weapons, but weapons and cool equipment. They are the real-life equivalent of Q's arsenal of gadgets and dangerous toys. We think they're really cool historical documents. These are each 127-page catalogs of actual real-world clandestine operations equipment. So our collector editions come with those books. They are available as add-ons optionally for all of the other pledge levels. We are launching Licensed Troubleshooter as a 30-day Kickstarter pre-sale campaign. It starts today. It ends on October 11th at midnight. Our thank you to you for pre-ordering the book at this point is, first off, to have options for these two really cool Kickstarter exclusive cover designs. We're also discounting the books substantially from their eventual retail prices. So the standard book is $85, signed copies are $99. When the Kickstarter campaign is over, those are going to be sold for $99 and $120 respectively. So you get a 15 or 20% discount for your pre-order. We do, of course, also have our two additional companion volumes on OSS weapons and gadgets and CIA weapons and gadgets. Those are available as add-ons. We also have a few other cool extras like bookmarks and patches commemorating this Kickstarter campaign. We've done those for all of our previous Kickstarters as well. So there's a whole series of pledge levels that you can choose all the way up to and including our 00 Agent Mega Combination, where you get collector's editions of all three cover designs along with all of the extras that we're producing for the Kickstarter campaign. So head over to Kickstarter. There's a link in the description text below and you can check out all of the cool options available to you. In order to try to help out our European fans with shipping and customs costs, we have worked out an arrangement, and we've done this on a couple books previously, with a supplier in France who will take delivery of our books directly from the printer in France and then ship them within the European Union. This allows us to generally, with an asterisk, avoid you having to pay any customs fees for the books because they're transiting just within the European Union, and it reduces our shipping cost. For all the details, check out Kickstarter.com. We have the link to the Licensed Troubleshooter launch campaign down in the description text below. It's good until October 11th, so head on over there, pick up your copy. I know you're going to be really excited to see this book. It's a great one.